Welcome to the Ecommerce Alley podcast, where we believe that great brands are built on passion and leadership, smart operations, and of course, powerful marketing. My name is Josh Coffey, and I'm the founder of the Ecommerce Alley. And with me, I have my co-host, Dylan Gounce.
We should start saying that intro together.
At the same time, in unison?
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. I think everyone watching would really enjoy that.
You know, maybe next time. Okay. I'll pray about it.
Okay, great.
Well, we're going to do something pretty unique in this episode. And if you're listening on audio, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. But if you're watching, we're going to give you a visual. So I have my iPad here, and Dylan and I are going to unscriptedly build a plan for what we would do if we had to start over and get to $100,000 a month as quickly as possible. Now, we've done this for ourselves. We're doing this for 2 of our own product brands right now, and we teach all of our clients how to do this. And so for those of you that are listening that are our clients, we love you, and you probably have a leg up on this. But we're going to approach this from the perspective of, I have products, I launched a Shopify store with a stock theme, and I have 0 in sales and no marketing in place. What do I do next? And the good thing about this is, I just told Dylan that he's about to step on set with me and build this.
So, no, we're just gonna go right in.
Yeah.
So what's the plan here? How do you want to? Do you want to? Go ahead. What do you think?
Okay. So what I want to do is I want to start with, we're gonna assume a product. We're gonna just go with t-shirts. We're gonna be really.
Speaking of t-shirts, I have to.
Yeah.
I have to say this. Okay, we literally just got our brand new branded Ecommerce Alley shirts. Josh is wearing a very nice swagger jacket here. I've got on a nice green polo for those of you watching or listening on the audio. And I have to, I know I'm probably gonna get some crap for having some like bad fold lines or seams on my shirt. I just pulled this out of the box. They are fresh.
Right before we walked in.
Bree brought them over here as we were getting ready to start filming. I'm like, I'm wearing this. I don't care what it looks like. So t-shirts, are we gonna sell like Ecommerce Alley t-shirts, or are we gonna sell marketing t-shirts?
If you have never worked on our team, then you don't know how cheap Josh Coffey is. Because this is the first branded swag I have bought in over 10 years.
Yeah, this is
when I first started, I'm like, branded mouse pads, branded business cards, and
still have some of that.
We do have some of that, right?
Some of the old stuff.
And the pens and all of that. And I am like, I put all my dollars into things that work for me. So that's usually marketing and advertising.
Well, now look, we are now branded on the podcast.
There we go. We're officially branded.
Yes.
That is awesome. Okay, so I want to build a plan, and we're going to approach this as if, again, you're starting from 0. Now, you might not be starting from 0, right? You might be like, hey, I'm at $3,000 a month, $5,000, $70,000 a month. This applies beyond $100,000 a month. In fact, we're working with brands right now that do millions and some that do tens of millions, and we're teaching them these frameworks, because some people grow so fast that they missed a lot of foundational things, that if they just plugged the holes and did this, they would make a lot more. And one example, I mean, one of the clients we're consulting with right now, I gave them one simple idea and it added $5,000 in one day from a little tweak that they did on their pop-up on their website. And so it's like, it doesn't matter where you're at. I think that everybody needs to follow these, but if you follow these and ignore all the other stuff, you're gonna get there a lot faster. Fair?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Cool.
So we're going to sell t-shirts.
We're going to sell t-shirts. T-shirts, we're on Shopify. We have a stock theme. Let's say we have like 25 different t-shirt designs that we've done. What's the first thing we do?
Well, do you want to like throw out all the ideas that we should do and then order them, or do you want to go one by one?
I like that. We're going to we're going to throw everything on the table.
Okay.
All the puzzle pieces, and then we're going to click them in together one at a time.
Okay.
In the order that we think.
Okay.
You drop ideas, I'm gonna write.
I gotta start with Monster Cart.
Okay.
Gotta start with Monster Cart. If you're sticking with just the general theme, you probably have a terrible cart already. So throwing in Monster Cart or any other cart app, obviously Monster Cart is our favorite. Getting a better cart is like a no-brainer, easy thing to do. So start with the cart. Obviously, a good pop-up offer is really important. I love these pictures you're drawing.
Oh yeah, you could see them on your computer,
I'm
can't
looking
you?
at them right here. These are really
I'll put
cute.
pop up. Okay, so we got a little headline here.
For those of you watching on audio, you really should just go to YouTube to watch this episode because apparently Josh is going to be Bob Ross over here for us this whole episode.
Godspeed.
So,
I have this skill set of stick figures.
So the way this is now going to work is I'm going to tell you, and you're going to be.
I'm going to see if I could actually artistically draw what you're saying.
Oh
yeah.
gosh, okay.
It's way more fun than text.
I think testing bundles. This isn't like a huge necessity, but like playing around with some bundles of some sort. If you're like a T-shirt, having some ability to set up bundles would be good. I'm just spitballing ideas here.
All right. How do you like my T-shirt drawing?
I think was
good.
that a V-neck you just did there?
I guess so. We'll go bundles.
Bundles.
Okay. Would you say bundles, or would you like classify this as more of like an offer?
Offer bundles. I think like having a way, because I think you could do an offer for acquisition on the front end, but then also just allowing your customers to bundle stuff and get a discount
gotcha, yep.
on the site is also important. So there's kind of like the offer side of it, but then also just, oh gosh.
I know, nobody watched.
This is going to be a
All
train
right.
wreck.
Bundles or offer. Okay, I would agree on the entry point there, as well
Yep.
as allowing people, because if you have a product that's like T-shirts where people could buy one,
Yep.
but it's something that you would buy multiple of, that you could buy 3 or 4 or 5 T-shirts at a time. Let's give people that option to like maybe bundle and save, or like really push that.
Yep.
So you have an offer on the front end that we need to talk about, but then there's also just the bundling capability on the website.
I guess I would separate bundles and offer, and let's just throw offer as another one.
Okay. Yep.
Because
So you got
offer is
bundles.
going to be like the key for acquiring customers. Because when you're starting at 0, we want to just get orders. Like, you can't get profitable if you don't have orders to start. And an offer is the best way to do that, getting started. So getting a really good offer to get those orders coming in the door, and then starting to optimize for profit after that.
Yep.
That's how we like to do it. So do an offer. Free shipping threshold. I know that's a small piece.
That's an interesting one.
But
Yeah.
we gotta get that AOV up, and then also, this is where so many people fall apart when it comes to their paid acquisition, because people add to cart and they don't initiate checkout. Why do they not initiate checkout? Because Amazon has standardized free shipping. And if you are making your customers pay for shipping, they probably are not going to, and they're not going to buy. But if you don't have, like, if you're not testing shipping or some sort of that, you're going to miss it, and it increases your AOV. So that's really nice as well.
Yep. I love that. You like my little bar there? Hey.
That's a nice bar.
Free shipping threshold. You got to spend a little bit more to get free shipping. Okay, great.
So I feel like that's good for like kind of website stuff. We're kind of all over the place here.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Website, let's say that's good. We could probably come back to it. Let's go to email. I think having good email foundations to start is really important, because if you're running ads, I did a YouTube video just recently, and I said, like, imagine you drive 1,000 people to your website. Your website has like the best conversion rate. It's like a 5 to 7% conversion rate. So you're only going to convert a few people from that 1,000. What are you going to do with the rest of them? Just let them sit? No, let's get some email. So that ties into the pop-up that we already talked about. But having good email flows would be the start. What are you drawing here? What is this?
This represents
That's a flow?
Oh yeah, you like that?
All right, now I want to see it for campaign.
All right, flow. Oh.
All right, what's
How
a
do you
campaign?
draw a different envelope?
Different envelope. A campaign should be an open envelope with an arrow going into it.
Ooh.
How's that?
I'm not Picasso.
Just do a rectangle and then draw a triangle on top of the rectangle.
I'll draw a green envelope
Oh,
with a money sign.
man, you really let me down.
Okay.
Dang.
All right.
So you got flows and campaigns. Do you want to get specific on what flows are like?
I would like,
Yeah,
if we
what-
give some starting flows. What do you think that should be?
Obviously, a welcome flow would be a pretty good starting point.
Yep. Explain what a welcome flow is if somebody doesn't know.
So whenever they join your list, they're going to join your welcome flow. And this is going to get them indoctrinated into your brand, maybe give them an offer, or just kind of show them your products. And this is a really easy way for, like I said, for all those 1,000 people that land on your site that don't purchase, to try and get them to purchase, or at least get them to understand your brand a little bit.
Usually, welcome flows are typically the highest like revenue producing flow that we see. So
Yep.
welcome flow, that's the first thing I'm doing. opts into 15% off your offer, boom, they get that welcome flow. Maybe it's a series of 5 or 7 emails, 1 per day for 5 to 7 days.
Yep.
That's typically going to produce the most revenue. So I'm definitely hitting the welcome first.
Post-purchase is a big one. This is kind of tying into, we've been saying a lot recently, consumers want an experience, not a transaction. And if you have a good post-purchase email flow, it builds that experience for people and will also help just increase your LTV and increase the likelihood of someone coming back to buy from you because you've given them such a great experience after.
And you can cross-sell and post-purchase. We do it all
For
the time and make plenty of additional dollars within 48 hours by upselling stuff. So, I do cart abandon.
Cart abandon.
Yeah. Cart abandon, so somebody adds to their cart and they don't complete the checkout. I'm also going to do browse abandon.
Would you do all these to start?
I would, honestly. Because this is kind of like, this is like bricks in the castle, right?
Yeah.
If you're building a castle, you need a strong foundation. If you don't do these, you're just losing money. Because I know we're going to talk about advertising and acquisition. And if you're spending ad dollars, you need them to be as efficient as possible. And one of the most overlooked things that people do is they don't focus on the holes in the castle.
Yep.
And the foundation kind of crumbles. Or they're just relying on ads to produce when it's like you could have email fighting and doing stuff for you.
Yeah, imagine if every time you wanted to make a purchase, you had to acquire a new customer. It would be so unsustainable, and it would be so hard to grow at that point. So having this is a good way to set yourself up for profitability in the future. And then a sunset flow would be...
And a browse abandon. Last 2 that I would add in there.
Yep.
These are the 5 that I would do.
Yep.
Browse abandon is going to be for the people that if you're sending an email campaign and they click on one of the products in the email campaign, they browse it, and they don't even add it to their cart. You could do a cart abandon, but just because they viewed it and you have that data inside your email tool. So that's valuable. And then sunset is more of like a defense play. So sunset flow is pretty much, hey, after 120 days, if they haven't opened an email or clicked an email or opened a text or clicked a text, we're going to send them a series of emails to try to get them back that basically says, hey, if you're not interested, click here to unsubscribe. And we just do some Hail Marys to try to get people to become engaged. But if they don't, we then remove them from our email list. And it's a defense play because it's going to save us on the cost of our email tool.
Yep.
So we like to set that up to make sure that we're being a little protective over our subscription expense with whatever tool that is.
Yeah. And then email campaigns, I think, is a big thing that's overlooked because flows are kind of like that back of the mind thing that you always think about. Like, I just got to set these things up. Maybe it even is automatic for you. Campaigns are things that you actually have to be active in doing yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, there's so many brands that come into our coaching programs that are like, oh, how often do you send an email? Never.
Whenever I
Once
feel
a
like
month,
it, whenever I remember.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could get away with sending an email a week at least, a weekly email. But as you get bigger, sending daily emails is almost a necessity. And there's a lot of people that avoid sending campaigns so often because they don't want to tire out their list. And to that, I say, think about the open rate, right? Like, if your open rate is 20%, that means you can send 5 emails, and in those 5 emails, someone will only open 1 of them.
Yeah.
So you're not going to tire out your list. You should be sending campaigns pretty often, and it's just money printing. Like, you're just printing money every time you send an email.
Yeah, and the larger your list goes, the more efficient, the more profitable it is, right? If you're sending to 100,000 people, it's a lot better than you're sending to 100 people.
Yeah.
Because you'll just have more leverage there, which is why you should not, I don't think you should go to daily email sends right away.
Oh, for sure.
You get your automations, and then you pick up the volume as the impact warrants the resource allocation for that.
But all right, it's good to get started doing it.
Yeah.
Because if you start your business and you're not sending emails, it's going to get really hard to get into the flow of sending emails in the future.
Okay.
So
I'd almost say, like, in email, do we start with SMS? Do we just do email? I would avoid SMS right out of the gate. It's just one more thing you need to manage, and I think you need to be really leveraged or really focused.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
That makes sense.
Okay, next category. Next category.
Let's go to ads.
All right.
Was there something else you want to do first?
Nope.
Let's do ads.
We'll do ads.
I think advertising is the hardest, but the most leveraged thing you can do, because this is, you put money in, you get money out. It's that simple. But there's so much foundational stuff that you need to build for ads before all of that can happen. So do you want to put offer again here? Or do you want to move offer
So
from
I
up
almost
top?
feel like, let's talk about what type of ads, right? Because if somebody's listening, they're like, well, do I run Meta ads? Do I run Google ads? Do I run TikTok ads?
That's fair.
Do I run
I'm just always in the framework of Meta ads.
I know.
Like, I didn't. But
so I can tell that's one we should put on here.
Yes, let's do Meta ads for sure. And then honestly,
what's Meta's? It's like.
Oh yeah, here we go.
There we go.
That's just an infinity sign. Do it.
Isn't Meta's like an infinity sign?
It is, but with more of an M. So make the bottom of the infinity sign a little bit low. Oh gosh, you got this.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. But we'll count it.
It's close. That's close.
All right.
Meta ads. We're huge fans of Meta because it's brand building. Like with Google, it is just kind of they're searching for it, they click, and they land on your site. Where Meta, you get to build the brand, you get to build your own creatives, you get to have all of that.
Meta drives most. Now I'm going to add in here that I do believe Google is something you should do. I think you should run. We could talk about this in a moment, but like PMAX campaigns,
yeah.
We're seeing them do really, really great. But I don't think you should start right away.
Yep.
So usually Meta feeds Google really nicely. But if you're starting at 0, I'm not going to tackle Google right out of the gates. I think there's a threshold in which I would say maybe get to $30,000 a month before I start tackling Google.
Yeah.
Because Meta is going to drive a lot of it. So what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to see your ads, they're going to go to Google and they're going to Google you.
Yep.
And so I want to get some volume and get Meta dialed before I start trying to tackle an additional platform that is going to overwhelm me and consume a lot of my time.
Yeah.
Get Meta working, get it stable, and then start stacking on Google for just additional bottom of the funnel stuff.
Yep. What else did you want to talk about before?
I don't think there's any other ads I would add in the ads. This is a lot of ads.
Ads.
Yeah, I think Meta and Google, if I'm talking 100,000 a month, Meta straight into Google. And I'd put a threshold of maybe like $30,000 before you should really dive into Google. So you have some stability there. Let's break down, because we're not gonna, for Google, I'll just keep this real simple. I really think PMAX is where the focus should be when you do lean over there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add in here, budgetarily, I would put maybe 10% of like your overarching ad spend into that. But majority should all be in Meta.
We see that Google is definitely slower to scale, but it's a good thing to just stack on and diversify your spend a little bit to, like you said, just broaden your, especially when people are searching for you to get top of the list and that kind of stuff.
Let's do this. Let's break down Meta. If I'm like, okay, I really want to tackle Meta, I'm at 0. What are the phases or the things that we might do to really make sure that we can get it working and profitable?
Well, I think the first thing you need to figure out is what entry point are you going to use for Meta? Is it a single product? Is it a single offer? Is it multiple products? There's a lot of different things that you could do to figure out that, but figuring out what product or entry point. Do you want to, I see you said product testing. Do you want to say product, offer?
So I would
say,
say,
like, break it down?
So if I had 25 t-shirts, do you try to run to a collection? Do you go to a product page? We typically see going to a product page better. So I would just avoid collections altogether. Yeah. But there is going to be, out of those 25 shirts, there's going to be one. If I took, I could probably find the 10 most unique ones that like are really, really unique designs. And I would probably say we should do some lo-fi product testing to figure out which one of those is the best to really just hammer home.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I put product testing in here because I just think that if I don't know where I'm going to drive traffic, I can't layer an offer on anything.
Yeah.
Plus, if I did product testing and I find out the t-shirt, like we're doing this right now with one of our apparel brands, we found out a t-shirt is running, it's cranking right now. We started at $100 a day and doing some product testing. Yeah. And it's cranking at like a 4.5 return on ad spend on day 5 right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it's crushing it. Yeah. 0 offer. There's no offer, no discount at all. And so if you could find a product that cranks without profitability, with great margin and great return on ad spend without needing an offer, then I say skip the offer. Yeah. Like, why
Ideally,
not?
you don't have to use an offer.
Ideally, you don't have to.
If you can avoid it.
So I do product testing. I think the offer testing is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
If, for example, you find a product and you test 10 different products and you find that the best product is only getting like a 2 or a 2.5 return on ad spend, I'd probably start to really play with some offers to say, can we really crank this or get the volume or CPA down?
Yep, that makes sense.
All right.
And then I think ads testing or message testing. You want to do message testing first, maybe?
Yeah, message testing or creative testing.
Okay.
Because the creative, I would view the creative as a really
You're gonna
big
test messaging on the creative, essentially.
Yeah, but you could, like, if you find a creative that doesn't even have like like some of the ads, and I'm only going from like literally what we're talking t-shirts right here. So we're running a t-shirt ad that just literally has the designs on it. It shows the 2 different variants, and it has a little text on it that's kind of like it's just quirky text. It's just kind of funny text. And there's nothing super fancy. The description is, the primary text is literally just the description from the product page, and then the headline is just the name of the shirt.
I guess it depends on what product you're advertising. If
That's
it's
true.
t-shirts, then you probably don't need to
It's pretty
focus on
simple to
messaging
understand,
that much. But if you have a really unique product that needs a little bit of education, or you really need to call out those USPs, message testing becomes important. When it comes to t-shirts, which we're using as the example here, just creative testing is probably all you need. But then I do think that depending on the product, we probably, in this example, don't need to do message testing, but I do think message testing comes in because...
Yeah, I'll put that in here.
Just knowing what USPs really resonate with your customers, how can you stand out in a competitive marketplace is really important, and you're going to do that through messaging.
And for anyone listening, like if you're wondering, like, well, how the heck do I do all this product, offer, creative, message? We call them low fidelity campaigns. We also have one called an ad lab that we would actually do. The creative testing would be done in what we call an ad lab, which we have training on that. You could probably find, well, you can find the link in the description. It's probably like $7 or $17.
Yeah, and we'll put a link in the description for the lo-fi testing as well, because we just released a video on that a week or so ago. So we'll put a link in the description for lo-fi testing and ad lab testing. This is the foundation of meta ads for us, because we want to pull all of our proven stuff, product, offer, creative, messaging, etc., into a production campaign, into a proving campaign. And we don't want to spend a lot of money on stuff that isn't proven, because if you do, you're just going to be wasting money. So we want to prove it all in these testing campaigns, which that's why we have the lo-fi and the ad lab that are structured to do this before we move into a high budget purchase campaign.
Yeah, agreed. So we go down, we find the right product, right? We're probably, let's say the product doesn't do well and we find the right offer. We find them like, oh, buy 2, get the 3rd shirt for $5. Let's say that works or whatever. Great, we move into creative testing. So all of our creatives will then reflect that product in the creative, right? As well as reflect that offer. And then let's say we had to go deeper and figure out messaging. For t-shirts, I don't think we need to. But let's say that I had a product that was little educational and I had to figure out the messaging. Bang. I was going to say bam, and I went bang.
Bang,
bam. We figure out the message testing. Now, where do we go from here?
I mean, you have to validate all of this, because if you're testing everything, you're going to need to validate. Like, you may be able, like in the ad lab process, we're only spending about $3 per ad, and we're going to get a lot of results from that. But we need to validate it deeper before actually deeming this, stamp of approval saying that this was a validated or a proven asset. So moving into validation, where we're going to spend deeper on all of these assets.
What kind of so we'd run this in a sales campaign. Let's just briefly talk. We'll just talk high campaign level. We don't have to go down to like ad set and ad level and stuff like that. I think that's too granular.
Okay.
Launch this in Advantage Plus sales.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
If you have sales, which if you're watching this a month or 2 after it releases, hopefully everyone has sales by then.
I assume everybody. We're already seeing manual sales campaigns going away. We're starting to see people say, well, we're starting to see it in a couple accounts.
We still have sales in our account. But
Or
no, we still have shopping in our account. We don't have sales yet.
It's changing, but Advantage Plus sales, not shopping campaigns. We would validate in there. As far as how we would validate, I would validate this. So the budget on this would be like, just to get a little nerdy for those that would appreciate it.
Man, we should be linking them out to the podcast episode that we talk about this.
Yeah, we probably should.
We have a whole podcast for this.
We're going to run the budget at like 2 times target CPA. So if my, with a $50 minimum. So what that means is like, if my target CPA, t-shirts is pretty easy. So $20 target CPA, right? Times 2 would be $40, but our minimum will be $50. If you have a high ticket product, like some clients we work with that have like $100 target CPAs, well, your budget is going to have to be $200 a day for this, because you need to get some volume based on your target acquisition cost. And so we would take some of the winners from the creative tests and the message and with the offer and everything, and we would put them into an Advantage Plus sales campaign at 2 times target CPA to try to say, does this have legs? Can we go deeper on this? And then
we move to a production campaign. Hopefully, once you've validated all those assets. Here's the thing, though. You may need to go back to testing. Don't assume that all of the stuff that you did ahead is like, all right, that's the last time I ever have to do that. You may get through that testing phase. You test product, offer, creative, messaging, all of that. And now you come back, you go to validate it. and in your validation, you're like, oh, it didn't actually do super well. You're going to have to go back. Don't shove it into a production campaign hoping that more spend will fix it.
Yeah.
You got to go back and go through that testing again. Hopefully, you figured it out in the first testing round. If not, you will save money by going back to the testing phase, trying again, going back through validation, going back through production. The other thing to remember as well, theoretically, in a lot of these lo-fi and validation campaigns, you should be getting purchases as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to recoup some of that money that you're spending on ads. It may not be profitable, probably won't be, but you're going to start recouping some of that ad spend as well.
In validation phase, I would start to expect you to be you should be profitable in validation stage.
Yep.
So that example that I'm talking about, we're running 2 different validations of that product at $50 a day. That's how I got to $100 a day, and both of them are cranking at $12 CPA, 4.5-ish ROAS. Which is great.
Yep.
Once we get out of there, we move to a production campaign, same structure, ASC.
Yep.
And then this is going to be 10 times target CPA, which is cost per acquisition, which is going to be minimum $250 a day in this. Now, if you've never spent $250 a day, I mean, it might be 50 times target CPA.
Yeah.
Some accounts will work with around 50 to 100 times target CPA just based on like your budgets, right?
Yep.
So minimum should be 10 times, because the reason we need to do 10 is we need to say, if I got my target acquisition, that would be 10 per day times 7 days, that's 70. But Meta wants 50 in a 7-day window. So it gives us that little buffer zone in order to really optimize it.
And by the time that you've gone through all this testing and validation, but once you move to a production campaign, it should be pretty easy to get to that spend, because you've done all of the back leg work that's required for that.
And then the only thing I would probably add after this,
something else.
Yeah. Is then we need a snowball scale.
Yep.
And so if
you don't want to set at $250 a day forever.
Yeah, you don't want to set at $250 a day. So long as you're in your target CPA or target return on ad spend range in a previous 7-day, we're going to snowball scale 5% a day, and we use an automation for this. We don't have to get into granular details here, but if I'm at $250 a day, I could scale at 5% per day, so long as my previous 7-day window is in my target range of like return on ad spend or CPA, depending on what your metric is. And if we were to do that, we would basically be doubling our budget. So this would allow us, if our results were stable, which if we have tested and validated along the way, then we would expect our results to remain stable.
Yep.
So if they're stable, it'll 2 times your budget in 14 days.
Really is a snowball.
Yeah, it
snowballs. It rolls down.
So you could 4x your budget in a month. And so this is really important, I believe, because most people skip the product and they try to go straight to this production. Like I found like 2 or 3 ads, and I'm going to try to crank to like $200 a day or $500 a day or $2,000, and it just crashes and burns because you didn't test enough first, and then you didn't validate at a deeper spend threshold, and then you didn't have a high enough budget on to really optimize.
And then they assume it's a campaign structure problem, or it's like I need to try different ad creative for this product, or like that's when you start to go down the rabbit hole of trying to test different things that actually aren't impacting your results, is because you didn't do that foundational product offer creative message testing. That's really important. And once you move through all of that, validation and production should be really easy.
Okay, so we kind of have an ad plan here.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything else? Okay, so let's just talk about, just really briefly here. What about social media? I don't think that there's I don't think there's a revenue threshold. I think that it's like I really think that it's a resource threshold, actually. Because like, so if I was to put like a scale, can you still see my screen?
Yep.
All right, great. If I was to put a scale, and it's like a resource scale, I'm gonna have on one end, I'm going to have like, let's put like 0, and I'm going to go to 10 to make this really simple. So 10 being like a really high resource, 0 being, hey, it takes almost no resource at all.
Yep.
I'm going to place social at like, I'm going to put it at like an 8, right? Mm-hmm. Or a 9.
It's not higher.
It's not high. I don't know what would be 10 out of 10. Blogging might be 10 out of 10.
Writing
high
long
resource,
form posts
lower
daily,
impact.
Yeah.
So it's like a pretty high resource to do it, whereas like ads is probably going to be on the opposite end of the spectrum. It might be like a, maybe not 0 because of the, figuring it all out and everything, but it might be a 3, right?
Yep. And honestly, I would say that ads is a higher resource when you're getting started because
Yes.
you scroll back up, you've got all of those things that you have to do, which is all really high resource stuff.
That's a good point. So you might view ads, put like ads and social as an 8, right?
Yeah.
But then the only difference is social doesn't get easier.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Ads, once you have the baseline,
Yep.
ads will become less work. So it'll like drop down from like an 8 to a 3 over time. Because once you have stability, I mean, there are times we go and we don't even touch our campaigns for 2 months.
Yeah.
3. I mean, it's bizarre. And it's hard to think that, when you're spending $2,000 a day or $1,000 a day and it's scaling at 5% a day, and you don't touch your ads for a month or 2 months
Don't
or
even
3
log
months.
into your ads manager.
Yeah, you like log in, you're like, great, we're good, and then you log back out. So you're right. There's a heavier startup, heavier resource. Once you gain the skill set, once you have it cooking, then it becomes a lot.
And maybe
easier.
it's a little less than 30K a month, but I feel like in that 30K range is where you really start to get cooking with ads.
Yeah.
Like you've passed that threshold of where you're going to run into what I call a scale problem, where like you may try to expand your ads too much, you may try to increase your budget too much, and Meta runs out of people to target, or your creative doesn't hold up to that kind of scale, that kind of stuff. I feel like once you kind of pass that 30K a month threshold is where you kind of get the ball really rolling. And ads become way easier, and social would then become a little bit easier to accomplish. Obviously, ads. I don't think ads would get down to a 3 per se at 30K. What do you think?
I don't think that the number. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the brand, depends on the product, depends on a lot of different things.
I mean, yeah, I think that if we're looking at ads, it's hard to give like an arbitrary number here. I think that social is always a lot of work. But I think that there's a lot of value in it. And we're kind of seeing this right now, even for us, right? We've spent on ads. We've grown our business entirely on ads in email, pretty much. Yep. We've grown into a multi-7-figure business just by doing that, right? But at a certain point, I do believe that organic is really valuable. The question is when, and I've just started to like have this thought around, I don't think that there's like a revenue threshold in which it starts to make sense. Because we used to say that. I used to say, don't even think about social until you're doing at least 7 figures a year.
Yep.
You're doing over 80,000, right? 100,000 a month. It's really just not worth the squeeze.
Yep.
But if you have the time and your ads are rolling, and you don't have to touch them, and they're scaling, and sometimes we have people we work with. They come in and they do that right away, and then suddenly they're adding $20,000 a month to their revenue, and they only are touching their ads once a month.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think there's a revenue threshold. There's a level where I feel like social makes sense when you have acquisition figured out on the ads front, and then you have leftover time.
And
you
I
go
think
invest that because that's it's like a snowball effect on social, but it's a really slow snowball.
And I think it all stacks too, because if you get your ads working and you're cooking, but your email's not quite there, or your website has a lot of work, I would say that falls all before social as well. Do you agree with that? Because I feel like you got to build that foundation before moving into social, because fixing your website and your email, making sure that is as good as it can be before moving to social would be better, because you're going to increase your ad output as well doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that, so let's do an impact scale now, because we measure everything on impact and resource. So social is kind of inverse here, right? Where it has if I have a 0 impact and I have a 10 impact meaning usually the profit that is going to produce for your business. I'm going to put social. This is where things start to become a little interesting, because I'm going to put social. Let's reverse this. Social starts impact is like actually probably even farther over. It's going to be like a 1. It's going to be a 0.
The impact of social when you're starting at 0 is probably 0.
But so the resource is high, the impact is really low.
Yeah.
But over time, the resource remains the same.
Yeah.
But it becomes more impactful. Like when you're sitting on 200,000 followers, impact is a lot higher, so your resource goes a lot further, but it's still a high resource.
Yep.
And so I believe that you need to focus all of your attention on high leverage, high impact stuff that takes the least resource. But once you've done the work, then you start working on the higher resource stuff that is a slow climb on the impact. Because the downside about advertising is that when you turn off ads and you don't pay Meta, your traffic flatlines. It's like a faucet. Whereas social and organic is more of like you're digging a trench, and then eventually starts flowing and it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
And so I would view this as I'm going to tackle advertising, all focus on advertising for predictability. Once that is working, we're not going to optimize campaigns every day because it wrecks stuff. So I'm going to do the work, launch a thing, and then guess what? I have 3 or 4 days before I'm even going to come look at them again. And so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to focus on the next leverage thing, probably email. And then once I focus on email, I send the emails. Well, it doesn't make sense for me to send a daily email quite yet because my list isn't large enough. So I'm going to work on flows. But once my flows are worked on, then what do? So once you have done the highest impact stuff is where I believe then you trickle down and say, great, I'm doing nothing the next 2 days as I'm waiting on stuff. What should I do? Let's start digging that trench. That's kind of how I'm viewing social.
And I think once you've built an understanding of your brand, your customers, your products, all of that, because you start off with a general knowledge, but the more that you grow as a business owner, you're going to start to deeply understand why people buy your stuff, what makes your stuff special, and how to talk to your customers, I think is a really important thing. Once you start to figure all that out as you grow, it's actually gonna make social easier, I think, because now you don't have to, there will be a little bit less testing for social and more, I'm pretty confident in what I'm saying to my people. I just have to make sure this message actually gets out to my people, and really the only way to do that is just volume.
So I would agree.
So those are the four things you wanna do?
I'm thinking here.
Website, email, ads, social?
I think we've covered it.
I think so.
This is it. I mean, to do more than this is going to distract you. It's going to distract you. I was having I was doing a one-on-one. I was actually coaching a client that we had worked with. He had come in and it was like $5,000 to $10,000 a month in our Max Profits mentorship. By the way, go check it out. If you're an e-com brand and you want help on learning how to do a lot of this stuff, we teach and we coach all of this stuff in our programs. So anyway, I was meeting with him, I think it was last week, and I had him send me all their profit and loss statements before we meet. I do that all the time. If you're going to do a one-on-one with me, you're sending me your stuff because there's nowhere to hide when you send a P&L.
No, there's not.
And I love him to death. I really do. Like, he came in, he's such a cool dude, has such amazing products. We've worked together for almost 2 years now. And so he comes in, he's making $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Jumps to 30 or 50,000 within 3 months. Then jumps to over 100,000 like 4 or 5 months in, right? That's abnormal growth. You know what he was doing? The things that we teach. He was doing the ads, he was doing the email, he was focused on that. But then I'm looking at these, his P&L, and I'm looking at like all of these things that are like, I'm talking to him and his partner, and I'm looking at all of these outgo, and I'm just like dying in the back of my mind. Like I'm like spasming PTSD because I've been there, right? Where you hire, and you have like 5, 6, 7 people on the team, and you're like, I'm doing $50,000 a month. You got to do the math on this. Like you're hemorrhaging cash. And so I'm looking at this. I'm like, well, where are you spending stuff? And like, so they started focusing on blogging and wholesale and Pinterest, and they're working on all of these things. And I don't want to give him a hard time because he's going through a hard time right now. But I kind of looked at him. I said, man, like, what changed in the last year? Because he diversified his attention for like a whole year, and then they did a lot more revenue, but they actually lost money. And the expenses were just too high. And so if you stay focused like on these things that we're talking about, you're going to remain lean and profitable. And then it's going to give you a profit to be able to go explore the other things. Like, what if we start doing organic on Pinterest or running ads on these other platforms?
It's fun to do that stuff.
Oh, it is, for sure.
But you have to build the foundation. You have to have the profit. You have to have that knowledge of how have I gotten to this point? And then more importantly, how do I prevent failure moving forward? You have to have all of this built so that, let's say every adventure that you take out fails. You try Pinterest, it fails. You try TikTok, it fails. You try Snapchat, it fails. You have all of this to come back to that you can be safe at.
And the challenge is, as you get better and as your business grows and your success just in life and entrepreneurship grows, the opportunities become greater and more tempting. And so we're to the point now that like we have to say no to stuff that I don't want to say no to because there's the Josh Coffey in my mind that's 10 years back that's like I would have killed to have this opportunity to make this much money, to do this thing that somebody's offering as a partnership, whatever it is. But I'm like, I have to stay true to the vision and what I'm doing. And so as you become more successful in your journey, the opportunities become greater and more tempting. And so you sometimes it's ego too. You're like, oh, I'm really good at this, so why not go over here? Why not do this? We're going to expand, world domination. We're going to own everything. We're going to go big with this. And then you find yourself so spread thin and so broke that you're like, well, what went wrong? And
Yep.
and then it's hard to trace back to realize what went wrong was I stopped doing the main thing and I took my eye off the prize.
It's really interesting. If you watch Shark Tank, which I love Shark Tank because yes, it's a reality show, but it really is real life business stuff. And all the time, especially nowadays. It didn't used to be like this, but within the last few seasons, every time an entrepreneur goes and stands on that rug and says, yeah, I'm really looking for your guys' help to go to wholesale or to do this or do this or do this, the sharks get so like, I'm not actually interested in this anymore because it's that diversification of what you're doing is working. And if you just poured more fuel onto that fire, you would go further than trying to diversify into wholesale or trying to get into retail or any of those other things that you could try and do.
Yeah. Compounded focus
Yeah.
is so important here. So let's go ahead. I want to order these.
Yeah.
Of if anyone's listening and like, okay, so what's the takeaway? What do I go do first? I believe website is first thing you got to tackle.
Yeah.
Baseline.
And I think I want to tag on here. I feel like some people get really, really hung up on their website. They're at zero. They get really hung up on their website. Like, I don't want to launch ads until my website's perfect. Well, I think that there is some value in that, but then there's also some negativity in that. Because if you perfect your website, you spend months working on your website, then you launch ads and it sucks. That's a very likely possible thing to happen. Just be careful doing that. Like, get it set up with, honestly, what we have here is like the bare minimum of like, you definitely should get this set up. By the way, we didn't put product photography in here. I don't know if that is important, you think? That's one of those, that would be one of those things, don't spend too much time on that, I don't think.
I can't draw a camera, so I'm just going to write the word product photos.
Just do a rectangle with a circle in the middle. And then do a little square up at the top to show a flash. Perfect.
Aha!
Camera.
Thank you. Got it.
Product photography is important, but I don't think that it's like obviously you need product photography, but it doesn't have to be like professional product photography and.
You know what? Apparel, I'm not even gonna fight for that.
Apparel?
No, like, so you could just do product, you could just have your products like with a colored background. In fact, your background should probably just be white and it should just be mock-ups. Like that's what we're doing right now, and then you could take UGC over time of people that send you stuff and then throw it in there.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about, the first 100K, I am not worried about professional photography.
Yeah.
If you have an affinity and you have a camera and you're good at doing it, you can do it cheaply, sure, but am I gonna go spend $3,000 having this done? Like I just met with another client who sent me their P&L 3 weeks ago that I met with, and I looked at it and they spent $13,000 on product photography last year.
My gosh.
But they were only doing like $40,000 months. I'm like, that's a big percentage of what you spend
chunk
per year on photos.
Yeah.
So I would say, if this is me, dude, honestly, I'm gonna say, you know what? That's not worth even talking about.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. Someone's gonna ask. I don't think we should do it.
Yep.
So let's look at the website. What's the order that we tackle things in here?
I don't know if there's even an order, to be honest with you.
You should just do this all in one. You can do this in one day.
Like 2 hours. like this is so simple.
If you're learning this for the first time, maybe it'll take a half day or a full day.
Find a tutorial online. Let's do 8 hours. That's a day, right?
So here's the thing. We're gonna build this for an apparel. If the average shirt is $30, I do think free shipping, $75.
That's fair.
You got to buy 3 shirts to get it. The rule of 3, we like to follow that. 3 products in order to get the thing. So free shipping, again, Dylan's not wrong. You could knock all this stuff out in an afternoon.
Yeah.
So free shipping, I'd say that at $75.
By the way, just for those of you who have not heard us say this, we say it all the time. Free shipping should be shown very prevalently. The very top sticky banner, free shipping, $75. Like, make it very clear, because if people don't know that they get free shipping, they don't know. And it will limit them. They won't want to buy. They won't want to add to cart. They definitely won't want to initiate checkout. So you'll lose them.
Agreed.
Make sure that's very prevalent at the top.
Free shipping. We're gonna knock out monster cart, set up a nice cart drawer.
Add
maybe
upsells, add some order value bumps. All
maybe
that
if you
stuff is
spend
good.
$125, you're gonna get 15% extra discount or something like that.
Yep.
Big add to unlock features there.
Yep.
Pop up. 15% off.
15%.
This
Don't
is
do
pretty
10.
standard. Don't do 10. We ran a test on this, and you make like 3 times more revenue by doing 15% off.
Yep.
Bundles.
I'm not sure that's a necessity.
It's not a necessity.
Find a good way to have upsells. That's the main thing. Like,
even in the cart, if the cart covers it, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
So to try and go figure out, do I need to do bundles on everything? I would even say that's not even a necessity.
No, I don't think so.
You can test that later.
I think those 3 are the key. One thing I do want to add that we don't have is messaging. Once again, t-shirts, not as important. But for brands that are a bit more unique, a bit more learning necessary for their product, having clear messaging on your product page, on your website, explaining what the product is, who it's for, and why I would buy it is really important. If you don't have that, then no one's going to add to cart because you don't have a good reason for me to add to cart. So we don't need to focus on this for t-shirts per se because the t-shirt should do the selling, but for pretty much any product. But
if you have an educational curve, you should focus messaging on the product page.
Or competition. Like obviously t-shirts have a lot of competition, but you're competing based on design primarily.
Yeah,
Whereas I'm even thinking like dog collars, you're competing with a lot of dog collars. So having good messaging on why your dog collar is better, why your design is better, all that kind of stuff is really important.
Agreed.
So having good messaging.
Let's talk about email. I actually think we did this in order.
We did do this
subconsciously
in order.
because our brains are always in this space.
Yeah.
I'm going to say on email, definitely flows our first priority.
Yep. And you said you do all 5 flows?
I would do all 5 right out of the gates.
Okay.
All 5 flows. This is a little bit more resource and work to do, but it's 24/7 printing of money.
And before you launch ads. It sucks because everyone wants to get to the ads right away, but you can launch ads, get to the ads right away, and if you don't have this foundation built, you're going to be losing money on ads. Maybe not right away, but in the future you'll be losing money on the ads.
I would move into I'd move into a weekly email campaign.
Yep.
Send once a week. Once the revenue warrants more volume, then increase from that. So I'd go 1 per week. There's something else that we're missing in here that I would also make sure that we're doing, is that I'm going to be running what we call a promo sprint.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically a 1 to 3 day promotion where you're doing some kind of a deal to your list to move non-buyers into buyers and get existing buyers to have a higher lifetime value and buy more from you. So we're going to run a promo sprint every 4 weeks. So basically once a month, we're going to tie it to a holiday, we're going to tie it to a new product launch, we're going to tie it to something so that we can create cash injection from our email list. We did forget that. I would add that in.
And that helps with your ad spend percentage too, which we didn't really talk about, but it'll help kind of keep your ad spend percentage in check while you're scaling your ads and trying to figure all that out.
Yep. Love that. And then into ads, I think we already covered ads.
Yeah, that's already
You need to tackle Meta. Once you kind of cross that $30,000, maybe $40,000 revenue range, then maybe start investing that time into Google. Or if, let's say, you have Meta and all of that going and you have organic sources elsewhere and you have time to tackle Google, then maybe start tackling Google. I would run a PMAX campaign to keep things really simple. Maybe run 10% of your budget there, but probably not more than that.
Yep.
And then finally, any
Social
leftover any leftover time you have, once you have the foundations of all these things built, then you're going to spend most of your time just creating campaigns on emails, running promo sprints once a month, which are just more email campaigns, right?
Yep.
And then managing your ads. And once those things are all done, I would put all the rest of the time into building the big picture of the organic audience and database there.
I think really the big takeaway from this episode is all the things that you have to do to get from 0 to 100 is pretty easy. Like it's pretty self-explanatory. I think the problem is that people skip the foundation stuff. They skip to the fun stuff. They want to go straight to that production ad campaign. And when you go straight to that production ad campaign, it slows you down in the long run because you haven't built that foundation, you haven't done the right testing, and now you're just going to be bleeding cash on a production campaign, right? Because you haven't built that foundation. I think that's what we see people do all the time. They just want to get to the fun stuff and they don't do any of the foundational work, where that foundational work, when we started working with these brands, we went in, plugged in that foundational work, and it blew up.
I want to give a good example. I'm going to give some numbers, but this is a tangible example. So one of our brands that we now are part of, they did a few months ago, 3 months ago, they did about 200,000 in sales. Lost like 20 grand or something like that. They're upside down. 200 grand.
Yeah, insane.
207 and lost. There was foundational things we had to really dial in.
Yep.
And so then we turned over into, then we partnered with them.
Yep.
And then you know what we did? We actually reeled the revenue back. Tamed the ad spend because we didn't have all these foundations. We didn't have the regular email campaigns going out like this. We weren't running promo sprints once a month. We didn't have the pop-up set up at 15%. We didn't have like this cart drawer and everything with Monster Cart. We went in and we plugged all this in, and we did it was like 50,000 the next month.
Yep.
But we had $8,000 in profit. And we pulled them back even more.
Wouldn't you much rather have $8,000 in profit than the vanity of $200,000
you make 50
revenue
and you kept 8.
Yeah.
Instead of make 200 and lose, it was like 15 or 20,000.
Yeah.
And then the next month, we actually pulled it back more because the ad spend was too high and we had to tame it to 30% from 50%.
Yep.
So we tamed the ad spend, started building out the flows, ran the second email promo, did all of this stuff, and did 36,000. Okay, well, we just lost 14,000 in revenue. 12,000 in profit. Or 10,000, I'm sorry, 10,000 something in profit.
That's
so 10,000. So we did another 14,000 less, but we made $2,000 more.
Yep.
So guess what's about to happen this month?
Yep.
Now, this is the third month.
Now you've got the foundation built.
Now we have the foundation built, and we're doing 2,000 days, and it's about to crank. Now we're about to crank because we have all the foundation. So we may do 80 to 100.
Yep.
And it took us 3 months to tear it down.
You literally would
build it back.
You basically started from zero, and it's so hard because people think, well, I've gotten so far. I don't want to go back. I don't want to kill my ad spend. I don't want to do the things. And it's also kind of like almost like a gut punch a little bit, where it's like, oh, I have to cut my ad spend. I had a $200,000 month, and now I have to go down to a, what is it 36,000?
Yeah.
Like that's a huge drop, and it can almost hurt your ego, I guess. Like you don't want to do that, but it's all about profit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yep.
And that's what you did.
Met with her 2 days ago. We looked at the P&L for the last month, and she was like, I am so happy about this. I'm like,
Yeah.
Good. Now what's going to happen when we do $500,000 months, and now you're looking at $100,000 profits.
Yep.
That's a way different story. So
Yep.
sometimes, like Dylan said, it is good to take a step back
Yep.
so that you could take 5 leaps forward, and it's okay. To go slow is to go fast, and to go fast is to go slow. So many people try to go fast,
Yep.
and as a result of doing that, they have weak foundation, they don't have the right bricks in the castle, and everything crumbles, and they end up going slow because of it. So it's better to back off, go slow, and by doing that, you're actually gonna make faster progress in a larger time horizon.
Yep.
Well, this was fun. This
was fun.
Probably way longer than I thought that we were gonna go
It
here.
usually does.
It usually does, but I hope you all found this valuable. If you did, please, if you wouldn't mind, give us a rating on this podcast. If you leave a review and you're on like Apple Podcasts, it means a lot to us. We read all of those. Our team do look at those. If you're on YouTube, we know this is probably long, but go ahead and subscribe for more stuff like this. Give us a like and drop us a comment on maybe a good takeaway and something you're going to do with this as well. With that said, thanks for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next episode.